Elias Thorne was a man who preferred silence. For 20 years, he had been the keeper of the Blackwood Lighthouse, located 10 miles off the coast of Scotland. It was a jagged, dangerous piece of rock where the waves hammered against the stone day and night. Most people would go crazy in such solitude, but Elias loved it. He loved the rhythmic whoosh of the light beam cutting through the darkness. He loved the smell of salt and old oil. His routine was strict. Every evening at sunset, he climbed the 150 spiral stairs to the top. He lit the great lamp. Then he sat in the small radio room, drinking strong tea and listening to the weather reports. It was a stormy Tuesday in November when the routine changed. The wind was howling like a wounded animal. The rain hit the glass of the lantern room with incredible force. Elias was adjusting the radio dial, looking for a jazz station from the mainland to pass the time. Usually, all he heard was static, the kurr of the atmosphere. But tonight, the static stopped abruptly. From the radio speakers came a sound. It wasn't jazz. It was a voice, a man's voice, sounding panicked and distorted, as if he were speaking through a long metal tube. "Mayday! Mayday! This is the cargo ship Aurora. We have lost our engine power. We are drifting towards the rocks. Can anyone hear me?" Elias frowned. He leaned closer to the radio. "Cargo ship Aurora," he whispered. The name sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember why. He grabbed the microphone. "This is Blackwood Lighthouse. I read you, Aurora. What are your coordinates?" There was a pause. Only the sound of the storm filled the room. Then the voice came back, clearer this time. "Blackwood? Thank God. We are blind out here. The fog is too thick. Our instruments are dead. We are at coordinate 45 north, 12 west." Elias looked at the map on his wall. Those coordinates were dangerously close. If they were drifting, they would hit the Razor Reef in less than 20 minutes. "Aurora, listen to me," Elias said calmly. "You are too close to the reef. You need to steer east immediately. Do you have emergency power?" "Trying to steer east," the voice replied, "but the current is too strong. Captain says we see a light. Is that you?" "Yes, that is me," Elias said. "Keep the light on your left side. Do not get closer." Elias stood up and looked out the window. He squinted into the darkness. The beam of the lighthouse swept across the churning black water. For a second, he thought he saw something, a shape, a dark silhouette of a ship rising and falling on the giant waves. Elias sat back down to log the distress call. He opened the official logbook. He wrote down the time, 11:42 p.m. He wrote down the name, the Aurora. Then his hand stopped. He remembered. Elias stood up and walked to the bookshelf. He pulled out an old, dusty book titled Shipwrecks of the Atlantic, 1950 to 1980. His fingers flipped through the pages quickly. He found it, page 142, a black and white photograph of a cargo ship. The Aurora, lost at sea during a storm on November 14, 1974. No survivors found. Elias felt a cold chill run down his spine. He looked at the calendar on the wall. Today was November 14th, but the year was 2024. He looked at the radio. The green light was still blinking. The connection was open. "This is impossible," Elias muttered. "It's a prank. Someone is playing a recording." But then the voice spoke again, and it chilled him to the bone. "Lighthouse, we are hearing strange noises. The crew is scared. My watch stopped at 11:42. Why is the moon so bright? It feels wrong." Elias stared at the microphone. He wasn't talking to a prankster. The fear in the voice was too real. He was talking to a ghost. Or rather, He was talking to a moment in time that was repeating itself. Elias had a choice. He could turn off the radio. He could tell himself it was a hallucination caused by isolation and cheap whiskey. But the voice sounded so young, so desperate. "Lighthouse, are you there? We see the rocks. They're closer than you said." Elias grabbed the mic. His hands were shaking. "Aurora, listen to me very carefully. You cannot go east. The charts you have are wrong." In 1974, the Razor Reef was smaller, but 50 years later, the underwater geography had changed due to volcanic activity. If they followed standard procedure for 1974, they would crash. If they followed his instructions for 2024, maybe, just maybe, history could change. "What do you mean the charts are wrong?" the captain's voice shouted. "Trust me," Elias yelled. "Turn west into the open ocean. Forget the coast. Turn west now." "West? That takes us into the eye of the storm." "It's the only way," Elias pleaded. "If you continue east, you will die. I know it. Please, turn west." There was a long, agonizing silence. Elias could hear the crew shouting in the background of the transmission. He could hear the creaking of metal. Then the captain's voice came back, resigned, calm. "Okay, Lighthouse, we are turning west. God help us." Elias rushed to the window. The lighthouse beam cut through the rain. He saw the silhouette of the ship again. It was incredibly close to the sharp rocks of the reef. Slowly, painfully slowly, the dark shape began to turn. It turned away from the coast, away from the safety of the land, and headed out into the dark, endless ocean. Elias watched until the ship disappeared into the fog. He ran back to the radio. "Aurora? Aurora, come in." Static. Cr, cr, cr. "Aurora, did you make it?" Nothing. The signal was dead. Elias sat in his chair for hours. He didn't sleep. He watched the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gray and pink. The storm had passed. The sea was calm again. Had he saved them? Or had he just sent them to a different kind of death? At 8 a.m., the supply boat arrived from the mainland. Young Thomas, the delivery boy, climbed up the stairs with a box of groceries. "Rough night, eh, Mr. Thorne?" Thomas asked cheerfully. "Storm was crazy." "Thomas," Elias said, his voice hoarse, "do you know a ship called the Aurora?" Thomas laughed. "The ghost ship? Everyone knows the Aurora. It's a local legend. My grandfather used to talk about it." "It sank in 1974, Elias said, "on the Razor Reef." "Well, actually," Thomas scratched his head, "that's the weird thing. My grandfather said the history books changed. They used to say it crashed on the reef, but then some old divers found the wreck a few years ago." Elias froze. "Where?" "Miles out west," Thomas pointed to the open ocean. "Deep water. They say the ship didn't crash. It looks like they tried to outrun the storm but ran out of fuel. They found the captain's logbook preserved in a safe." "What did it say?" Elias whispered. "It was strange," Thomas said. "The last entry didn't make sense. It just said, 'The angel in the lighthouse saved us from the rocks. We are drifting west. We are at peace.'" Chapter 6. The Echo. Elias looked out the window at the vast blue Atlantic. The ship had still sunk. The crew had still died. You cannot cheat death completely. But they hadn't crashed in terror on the sharp rocks. They hadn't died screaming in the dark. They had turned west. They had passed away peacefully, believing they were saved. Elias walked over to the radio. He turned the dial back to the jazz station. Soft music filled the room. He wasn't crazy. He was just a lighthouse keeper. And last night, his light had shone a little further than usual, across time itself. He took a sip of his cold tea. "You're welcome, Aurora," he whispered. "You're welcome." And that is the story of the Lighthouse of Whispers. If you enjoyed this mystery, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments. Do you believe in ghost signals? See you next time.